Daniel Serafini's downfall began in the once peaceful shadows of Lake Tahoe. On the night of June 5, 2021, a masked intruder quietly slipped into the $3.5 million home of his wife's parents. They had spent a pleasant day on the lake with their grandchildren, completely unaware of the horror that awaited. Surveillance video would later show the figure entering hours before anyone noticed. The victims, 70-year-old Robert Gary Spoor and 68-year-old Wendy Wood, returned to their home, warmly greeting their grandchildren who had just been waved off for the evening. Wendy handed her daughter Erin a check for $90,000, intended to help build an indoor horse riding arena she'd long dreamed of. Moments later, the masked figure emerged from hiding, firing point-blank into both their heads. Gary died instantly. Wendy was shot twice in the head and once in the hand, yet somehow survived long enough to dial 911. Investigators were drawn not only to the brutality, but to the impossibility of the crime. There were 3 cars in the driveway, no forced entry, no motive aside from intimate knowledge. It became chillingly clear the killer knew them. In the weeks and months that followed, Wendy clung to life, relearning to walk and write. But the trauma burned too deep. In 2023, she died by suicide, the family believes, haunted by the memory and the betrayal she could neither forget nor forgive. Despite the gravity of the crime, Serafini, Emily's husband, a former Major League Baseball pitcher, eluded authorities for more than 2 years. But the breakthrough arrived unexpectedly through Samantha Scott, a woman who never planned to be more than an occasional babysitter. Scott, a close friend of Erin, unwittingly became pivotal to the case. She picked up Serafini on the day of the shooting and drove him to the Spoors' home. Unbeknownst to her, prosecutors would later reveal, she was intimately entangled with Serafini in more ways than one. During a search of Scott's home in November 2021, police obtained cell phone records that placed her near the crime scene on that fateful day. Serafini, by contrast, had switched his phone off, an anomaly given his typical habit of sending over 100 texts daily. Further cementing the timeline, surveillance from a Nevada motel emerged. Both Serafini and Scott had spent the night together before the murders. When Scott later learned about the search warrant executed at her home, Serafini, consumed by guilt or desperation, confessed to her that he'd shot Wendy twice at point-blank range. Faced with mounting evidence, Scott struck a deal with prosecutors. In February 2025, she pled guilty to being an accessory after the fact, agreeing to testify at Serafini's trial in exchange for a reduced charge. In the summer of 2025, the 6-week trial gripped the courtroom. Dozens of witnesses took the stand. Erin Spoor testified that she knew of and tacitly accepted her husband's affair, describing their open marriage, but insisted she didn't believe he could, or would, kill her parents. Meanwhile, cell phone records, motel footage, and digital correspondence bolstered the prosecution's case. A text from Serafini, notably referencing a dispute over a renovation project and including the chilling line, "I'm going to kill them one day," sealed the sense of premeditation. When the verdict was read on July 14, 2025, the jury found Serafini guilty of first-degree murder, attempted murder, burglary, lying in wait, and firearm enhancements. In the courtroom, Adrienne Spoor, his victim's youngest daughter, broke down, tearfully declaring, It's been 4 years of just hell, a tidal wave of grief at last acknowledged. For Serafini, the fall from grace was swift and irrevocable. Once a celebrated pitcher, first-round pick in 1992, playing for 6 MLB teams and even internationally, he now faced life behind bars, the minimum sentence 25 years to life, possibly more if sentencing enhancements apply. Prosecutors painted the motive as greed. Serafini had lost millions to failed investments, divorce, a struggling bar business, and in the weeks before the shooting, he had received a $70,000 check from his in-laws, a gift. As of August 18, 2025, sentencing hearings are underway. Meanwhile, Adrian's grieving family has also pursued a wrongful death lawsuit, naming Serafini and Aaron, seeking civil restitution for their unimaginable loss. Wendy Wood and Gary Spore's lives were shattered in one violent act of betrayal. Serafini's name, once cheered on ball fields, is now forever linked with premeditated murder. And all of it, prosecutors say, was sparked by a cell phone that wasn't turned off. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime cases.